I was thinking about Tiger Woods switching to golf ball because the press release is coming through on all my stuff, and I was reading it, and I was like, I feel like not a lot of people know that you should get fit for a golf ball because it makes a
Outfit.
difference, a bigger difference than you think. So I made that the question of the day, and I was correct. Right now, the answers are coming back. It's now at 83%. They don't get fit. And Andrew, go ahead and roll that video. Andrew found some video there. You can see, Matt, when you go into a PGA Tour Superstore, how many unbelievable options. I mean, there are so many options. It's overwhelming. And so I think it's a good opportunity for you to just address that and tell people a little bit about the technology that goes into a golf ball, because there's a lot of technology these days that goes into a golf ball, and the differences among them and why you should get fit, because there the golf balls that are available now, there's so many different models. There are ones that are better for you than others. Your
Yeah.
grandfather should not be playing the same golf ball as your 15-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, from the standpoint of getting fit, you can go through some of the fitting programs, or you just should, at the very least, have an understanding of why you're playing a particular ball. Andrew, do you have that photo, the old photo we had of the old feathery golf ball, the gutty golf ball that had? There it is. I just want to start with how it all started with golf balls. What they used to do with golf balls is they would take leather and they would sew it together, and then they would take these boiled feathers and they would stuff it inside of this pouch and sew it up. And as it dried, the leather and the feathers and all the rest, they said it would take a top hat, one of the big like stovepipe top hats of feathers, into this little pouch. And then they would harden. And they would, of course, obviously sew it all up, and it would harden into the golf ball that they used back in the day of Allen Robertson and Old Tom, etc. Although Old Tom got himself a little trouble with Allen, because when the Gutty came out, this was all around St. Andrews in Scotland. The just before I finished with the feathery, what used to happen with that is, remember, it's leather. So, and it rains in Scotland. So it was okay because it got so hard. But after a while, it would get beat up. It also didn't perform very well with irons. That's the reason why when you look at the old clubs, they're almost all predominantly long nose woods, as an example. They had irons, but irons were mostly used like to get a ball out of a rut and things like that. So there was a doctor in St. Andrews, and he got something was shipped to him, and it was packed in the gutta percha, which is the sap from the tree. And for some reason, I don't know why, his sons boiled it and they molded it, and they created the first golf ball that was not from feathers. They took the golf ball out. It performed obviously like rubber, and so it was a great performer. Aforementioned Allen and Tom battle. Allen was against it. Tom was working for him as an apprentice. He wasn't really that against it. He started using it. Allen found out about it. They supposedly never lost in match play when they were together. They kind of had a falling out. Eventually, they came back together because Allen realized that it was a pretty good golf ball to use. And the reason why that picture, Andrew, go back to that picture again one more time. I want to show everyone what I'm talking about here. This goes to the modern golf ball, which I'm going to get into in a second. There's a reason why a golf ball has dimples. Dimples act like wings on a plane. And so the middle picture that you're looking at there, they're calling it a hand hammered. That means that someone physically, and old Tom used to do this too. They would take, it looked like a flathead screwdriver, and that was just one of them. They had various different ones that they could use. And they would pound in this pattern so that the ball had better flight. Right? And you could, here it is, we're taking a look at it with a modern golf ball right now. So because the golf ball started to have better flight, it was then the introduction of irons into the game, and young Tom Morris was one of those who really championed this change, this fundamental change in the equipment in the golf industry that was because of the change in the golf ball. So just to give you an idea of how it started, its early origins, and I'll tell you, young Tom Morris still doesn't get the credit that he deserves in the game of golf because he fundamentally changed the way the game was played. He was that far ahead of his time. His ending was tragic, unfortunately. It's really interesting because old Tom Morris outlived every one of his sons. Really, really very interesting story. If you go to St. Andrews, you can see old Tom's shop is still there. You can see where ultimately he had his demise. Old Tom was he got up to go to Lulu and he took the wrong door. He was 86 years old. And he went down the door that was actually a staircase, and that was the end of old Tom. But that origin of the golf balls is interesting to know where we stand with a modern golf ball. Here, I got one on my pile of junk. So this is a modern golf ball. As I was talking to you about, you've got the dimples. The thing that's interesting about the golf balls, now part of this is the marketing that goes into golf balls, is that they want you to believe that there's almost like a nuclear core in the middle of these things. What they are is golf balls are rubber compound. Now, the picture you're looking at there, I'm not sure when that was from, but it was a photo that we obviously took here in the studio of a golf ball that's cut in half. And it shows you what modern golf balls look like with the various layers of rubber compounds. Now, these layers that go into a golf ball, what I like to say about golf ball technology is that it's really a symphony of technology. But what's important to realize is that in a modern golf ball, the technology at times works together, and at times it works in contrast to each other. So, Dom, the first, just to take this in pieces here, the first question you asked me is that, does it matter which golf ball you play? It does matter which golf ball you play relative to the core that's in that golf ball. What I mean by that is, if you're sitting at home on the couch and you say that you want to hit a golf ball the way Rory hits his golf ball or the way Bryson hits his golf ball, you want to play the golf ball that they are playing because you want the kind of performance that they are getting. The difference is that for the best players, and somebody you mentioned was talking about the swing, the average speed last year before on the PGA Tour was around 115 miles per hour. Okay, it's a little bit higher than that now, but around 115 miles per hour. So if you have a swing speed at that level, you can effectively engage the entire symphony of technology that exists in that golf ball. In other words, if you have a tour level golf ball, you are going to have a core that's going to want to resist the deformation that happens during the very violent impact between, say, a driver and the ball. So the harder that you can swing, the more that you can deform that golf ball at impact. The more that you can deform that golf ball at impact, the more that you are going to create velocity. Because this is physics. That ball will want to rocket back to form. Right? So the best players are playing golf balls that have a hard core because they have the strength, they have the club head speed in order to compress that golf ball. The part of the technology where people don't always understand, it's very common, especially with tour caliber golf balls nowadays, where you'll hear them say, you'll get less spin off your driver and your longer clubs, and you'll get more spin in and around the greens with your scoring clubs. And people hear that and they go, what? How does that make any sense? Well, what's happening, and this goes to these layers that I'm talking about. So, Andrew, pull up one of the shots that you have that show a golf ball cutaway. It can be an artist rendering, whatever it is. And so you have the cover of the golf ball. And let's say a cover of the golf ball that we're talking about, you say it's urethane in this one, right? It's a soft material that we're talking about. And what happens is if you have that cover And that cover is up against the mantle layer. That mantle layer is designed to be very, very hard. Again, picture it. You're hitting your driver into that ball. It is still a rubber compound. That mantle layer is going to move just like that core. How much you compress it is going to be dependent upon how much club head speed you can generate. And how much you compress it is going to be the result of what kind of performance you get from the golf ball, given distance, etc. However, when you come into it with a higher lofted iron, that very hard mantle layer is not likely to yield as much. So what happens? That cover gets pushed into the grooves of your higher lofted club. It's like the grooves of your club act like teeth, and they bite into that golf ball. So a couple things happen. One is the golf ball remains on the face longer because the grooves are biting into it. And the golf ball, as it is going through this dynamic process, is rolling up the face as well and generating spin. That's where you get the control as you're coming into the green with your higher lofted clubs. That's what's happening with all of this. So the reason why I'm going down this road is so that people understand when you guys had the video of walking into a golf shop and just seeing a wall of boxes of golf balls. You're trying to figure out, okay, what golf ball is best for me? And the way the industry sorts it is that people pick golf balls for a number of different reasons. One of the big reasons that people choose the golf ball that they choose is price point, right? And the price points that do a lot of volume generally are around $19.99 each, $24.99. It's always a 24, right? 99 at the end of it. Those price points, $29 up to $39. Those are very active price points. And if you do, and this is what it comes down to, where Dom's saying, get fit for a golf ball, which I do think you need to get fit for a golf ball, but I don't think you always have to go see someone to get fit. You can use the online technology. I don't know, I was talking about Bridgestone earlier. They have it. Or you can just do the research to understand your game and which golf ball necessarily would be best for you. That is still kind of getting fit from that standpoint, instead of just going in and blindly buying a golf ball or playing a golf ball that you found in the mud. So price point is one of the things that people choose by. And once you find a price point that suits your budget, then you can start to look into features that may work for your particular golf swing. So as an example, if you are the average amateur golfer, which means that you have a swing speed that is generally under 100 miles per hour, you're just a regular person playing the game of golf, it helps if you go with a softer compression golf ball. And the reason I'm saying that is, remember the conversation I had about the best players in the world and how hard they hit the golf ball? They can compress that golf ball that has a super hard core. The slower your swing speed, the harder it is to do that, so you'll get less dynamic performance out of that technology. So if you go with a softer compression, you stand a better chance of compressing that golf ball so that you create the velocity that equates to distance. After that, what I look at is, are there layers in the golf ball? What are the layers in the golf ball? Does it have that mantle layer, for an example? And if it does, that mantle layer is going to have that dynamic I was talking about, regardless of the particular material that the cover is made from. It could be a cervical cover, for example. It's still going to have some compression into the grooves so that you have some control. As you move up the line, and when I say up the line, now let's define it, say, by price point, you are going to get through more and more sophistication into these golf balls. That means that the layers, that symphony of technology that I'm talking about, will become more and more sophisticated. And that's why those price points are going up. That's the reason why the best players in the world play these golf balls. So what I'm saying to you is, you may be able to play a golf ball that the very best of the best play, but if you're going to, it's important to understand how and why it might work for your game or why it doesn't work for your game because of all of this different technology. Once you get to understand these basic elements, it's a lot easier to find a golf ball that works for you in your game, instead of just looking at it and going, hey, if the best player in the world can hit it that far, then surely I'm going to hit it farther than I do right now if I play the same ball. Not necessarily. That just goes to, we haven't even talked about it on this show yet, but that just goes to the complexity of what's going to happen when the USGA and the R&A decide to limit the distance of the golf ball, and yet they want to use a golf ball that works for all layers of players. We're going to have to get into that at some point as we move forward.